Hey, what's up, guys? So, this is part 18 in our Matthew series. We're in chapter 11, and this is where he's just sent out his disciples. He's given them power over unclean spirits and the authority to cast them out. And it starts off in Matthew 11. It says, "Now it came to pass when Jesus finished commanding his 12 disciples that he departed from there to teach and to preach in their cities." Now, let's stop for a second. Remember how God always goes before you and he prepares the way, and God always comes behind you, right? He's prepared the way. He's given them the power and authority over the unclean spirits. And now, what does Jesus do? He goes behind them. He goes to their cities. He goes to where they've been and where they're from to now preach and proclaim the message of the good news, the gospel, to do the works that he's called them to do and commissioned them to do after they've gone and walked in what he said do. This is, and when John heard in prison about the works of Christ, this is talking about John the Baptist, he sent two of his disciples and said to him, "Are you the coming one, or do we look for another?" And Jesus answered and said to them, "Go and tell John the things which you hear and see. The blind see, the lame walk, the lepers are cleansed, and the deaf hear. The dead are raised up, the poor have the gospel preached to them, and blessed is he who is not offended because of me." And this is John the Baptist. This is Elijah. Remember, Elijah had depression, and he ran into the cave after this demonstration of power, and he went back and heard the voice of God and the still small voice in the midst of the storm. And this is him. This is him, John the Baptist. He is Elijah, the one who was to come and to prepare the way of the Lord. He was the voice crying out in the wilderness. He pointed Christ out and said, "That is the Messiah. This is the coming one." He saw the Holy Spirit descend and land upon Jesus, alight upon him as a dove. He saw these things. He proclaimed these things. And yet, now he's in a position where all of his circumstances have changed, and he's beginning to doubt, and he's beginning to question. And guys, I've never seen, this is one of my favorite practical real world examples of the throne of grace, because what you see here is not what many people would do, right? Many people would turn and, well, I'm getting ahead of myself, but many people would turn and be defensive, or take that opportunity to point something out. What he says is he answers John's question directly, and he says, "Go and tell him the things that you hear and you see. Go and tell him all of these the miracles that have been done, that what is going on. Let him know who I am by what I've done," right? Let him know who I am by what I've done. And as they depart, Jesus began to say to the multitudes concerning John, "What did you go out in the wilderness to see? A reed shaken by the wind? But what did you go out to see? A man clothed in soft garments? Indeed, those who wear soft clothing are in kings' houses. But what did you go out to see? A prophet? Yes, I say to you, and more than a prophet. For this is he of whom it is written, 'Behold, I will send my messenger before your face, who will prepare your way before you.' Assuredly, I say to you, though among those born of women, there is not risen one greater than John the Baptist. But he who is least in the kingdom of heaven is greater than he. And from the days of John the Baptist until now, the kingdom of heaven suffers violence, and the violent take it by force. For all the prophets and the law prophesied until John, and if you are willing to receive it, he is Elijah who is to come. He who has ears, let him hear. But to what shall I liken this generation? It's like children sitting in the marketplaces and calling to their companions and saying, 'We played the flute for you and you did not dance. We mourned to you and you did not lament.' For John came neither eating nor drinking, and they say he has a demon. The Son of Man came eating and drinking, and they say, 'Look, a glutton and a wine-bibber, a friend of tax collectors and sinners.' But wisdom is justified by her children." And what Jesus does is, instead of turning around and rebuking John, or explaining to the crowds that this is, that this is John's mistake, that this is who John is, this is his error, and why, in defending who he is. Instead, he turns around and he defends John. And he speaks to the crowd and he tells them exactly who he is, that he's the greatest prophet that there's ever been. That everybody prophesied until him, and now prophecy is fulfilled. Right? It's not prophecy if it's being fulfilled. Prophecy is that it's to come. Prophecy is of something that is coming to be, but not yet is. Right? Now it is. Now the prophecy is fulfilled. Jesus is here. The kingdom of heaven is at hand. And he's asking them, who did you go out to see? Did you go out for nothing? A reed shaking in the wind? Or maybe you went out to see somebody more like the Pharisees, somebody that was clothed and decorated in high honor, right? Not this guy that's in prison, not this wild crazy man. But no, you went out to see a prophet, did you not? And yet you got more than a prophet. This is Elijah, if you're willing to receive it, the one who came to prepare the way. And then, once again, he turns around to the crowd, and he's not only proclaiming how great John the Baptist is, the dude who just doubted him and sent messengers to question if he was even that person. He says, no, let my works speak for themselves. Let John see who I am by the things that I've done, by the fruit of my labor, the fruit of my tree, the fruit that I'm bearing. Let him see those things and judge who I am. He says, but then he talks to the crowd. He says, yet one person in the kingdom of heaven is even greater than him, greater than Elijah who is to come, greater than the greatest prophet, the more than a prophet. Greater are you in the kingdom of heaven because you believe, because you see. There's nothing greater than being a child of God. And there's nothing greater than seeing the kingdom of heaven at hand. He's not speaking of the power and the authority that he just gave to his disciples. He's not speaking to these great works or anything like that. He's speaking to people who are citizens of the kingdom of heaven. And not just any citizens, not those that are in the king's palace, that sit at the right or the left hand, that are closest to the throne. No. He says, even somebody who is the least in the kingdom of heaven is greater than the greatest prophet on earth. And it's because what's in the kingdom of heaven, what the kingdom of heaven has to offer is love, is pure love. It's joy. It's peace. It's everything that is good. And what hell has to offer is everything separated from God. If you want to be separated from God, you want to be separated from love, you want to be separated from joy, you want to be separated from peace, there's no wonder why it's a place where there's weeping and gnashing of teeth, where it's eternal darkness and suffering. It's a lake of sulfur and fire. God gives everything that's good. But even what's good, even somebody who's not only just talking about the kingdom of heaven, but when you see the kingdom of heaven, it gets misjudged in this world. It says John came neither eating nor drinking, and they said that he had a demon. So he wasn't intoxicated, and he was fasting. He was one of the purest ways that you could be, yet they still said that he had a demon. And then the Son of Man came eating and drinking, and they say, look, a glutton and a winebibber, a friend of tax collectors and sinners. So they see Elijah who's to come, and they see the Son of Man, both in different regards. One not eating and drinking, and one eating and drinking, yet they still see it the same way. Because sometimes people want to see things however they feel fit. and they're going to see it through their eyes. But Jesus concludes this part with saying, but wisdom is justified by her children. And it doesn't matter what they say. It doesn't matter what situation you're in. It doesn't matter the things that you're going through, the position that you're put in. The things that you do when you walk the righteous path, when you put the kingdom of heaven first and you do what you know you're supposed to do, those things, that path, allows everything else to fall into place. That's the path that matters. And that's the path that's justified. And when wisdom is justified by her children, people will see the fruit of the labor. They'll see the works that you do. They'll see the things that come after you, right? They come from you. They come into bloom. And those are the fruits. That's how you know what the tree is. That's how you know if the tree is good or if it's bad. Because you can't tell from looking at it. You can put all sorts of stipulations and regulations on people and say, well, if he was fasting, then he's pure, and if he's sober, then he's fun, and if he's both, then he's really close to God, or and and still call it I'm getting tongue tied, but you can put those kind of stipulations and then still say that there's something wrong, or you can see the one who is perfect and still call him something else. You can be put in a situation where you once were proclaiming the kingdom of heaven arrived, where you're defeating the prophets of Baal by seeing this great and marvelous work being done, only to later be hiding in a cave, right? Or to be put in prison and doubting, asking, was I right? Did I make a mistake? Second guessing everything that you're doing. But fear isn't something that's of God. And worry, doubt, all of these things, that's not of God. What's of God is love, peace, patience, kindness. All of these, the fruits of the Spirit that come forth. Right? But like the greatest prophet, sometimes we need that reassurance. We need to come to Jesus and just ask him, Lord, is what I'm doing right? Is it good? Is this the path that I'm supposed to be on? And when he answers you, when you make that mistake, you're sitting in the prison. The John's in a real prison, but sometimes we put ourselves in a mental prison, right? And we remain trapped because we can't get over something, or we can't move forward. We can't get over doubt. We can't get over worry or fear. We can't get over all of these things, so we stay put, or we get comfortable, right? And we stay put in these mental prisons, giving ourselves these handicaps. When we go to God and cry out to him and ask for him, that's all you have to do is ask. Send somebody, ask. Send a prayer. Ask, are you the one? And what he does, he turns around and he covers every affliction. He covers everything with grace and with love and with truth. And he turns around and he tells you who you are. And he tells you that you are loved. He tells you how great you are. He tells you the things that you've done and who you are and who you're to become. He showers you with love. It's not condemnation. It's love. It's edification. It's building. And then he goes on to show you more than you ever thought that you would know. Tells you more about the kingdom of heaven than you ever thought that you would see. And so walk these things, right? And it's okay. Cry out to him. Cry out. Ask him. Look for help. Because even the lowest, the worst person, if you believe in Jesus, you're greater than any prophet that's ever lived. Greater than anybody, anything that's here on this earth. Think about that for a second. And the reason being is that if you're in the kingdom of heaven, you're in the glory of God. And there's nothing in the glory of God there's nothing in the world that overshadows the glory of God. So you carry that and you speak that, and you get up every time you fall and you walk out. The gates of hell cannot prevail. That prison, that door is unlocked. And you can walk out. You can be set free. Because you call upon the name that's greater than any name. That's Jesus.